Mayday, mayday, aircraft. 782, we have smoke in the cabin.
Channel 782, contact, pilot maintain.
Good evening and welcome to the December 2025 transmission of Galactic Terrors, the online reading series that scours the known universe for scary stories, strange tales, weird horror, and all sorts of literary oddities from the most imaginative authors writing in a variety of fascinating genres. Tonight we have three fantastic authors joining us: Oliver Baeer, Jennifer McCardle, and RAFAEL Tavares Jr. And with me, I'm James Chambers, of course, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Carol Gyzander. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Good to see you, Jim.
Yes, good to see you too. It's hard to believe we're at the end of December, or end of 2025, not just December. We're not at the end of December, but we're at the end of the year, and I don't know where this year went. I feel like there was a time warp I stepped into sometime back around March 4th or 5th, and here we are.
And here we are.
Crazy.
Oh, well.
But thank you all for joining us. We love to have you in the audience. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're back for more, welcome even more. And make sure that you click like and subscribe below to follow future Galactic Terrors transmissions.
If you're watching on YouTube, yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube, yep. And unfortunately, I think we're only streaming to YouTube. Facebook seems to have given us a sudden boot, and I don't know if we're there.
Or it might be, and it just doesn't like our messages, but you just never know. So we will figure it out.
But you can also look for us on the second Thursday of the month every month, except for those months when we change the date, in which case you really ought to sign up for our newsletter so that you'll know that we're changing the date.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll put that link in the chat, and Carol, who does a fantastic job with our newsletter, promises not to spam you.
Yes. And for example, this month I did not spam anyone because I forgot to send out the newsletter. So no, there was no spam. It came out today, just in time to remind you to come in. So
I'm telling you, time warp.
It is.
Like we didn't know what was going on or what was happening.
I think it was that big supermoon thing that did it, Jim, and all the magnetic transmissions from the sun right now. I think that's it.
I think you're right. Yeah, I remember that. What was that? The cold moon, they called it?
Yeah, it was really amazingly bright. You know, I really liked it.
Yeah, and it was nice. It was a really clear sky that night, so I could see it very, very clearly, which is
it
always
was talking to me, you know. I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Well, I'm always seeing these people posting pictures from around my area of, wow, amazing northern lights, aurora borealis. And I go outside and I'm like, I see clouds.
Well, you have to take pictures with your camera in order to see it sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes the bare eye doesn't catch it. But there's even a Facebook group for aurora watchers in New Jersey, which I am part of, and I never managed to see them either. So
very cool. Well, we have some more grounded, down to earth events coming up, I think, in the near future, don't we?
We do. We have a couple things coming up at the beginning of the year, and these first two are both in February, which is kind of cool. On February 7th in Port Jervis, New York, there's something called My Bloody Valentine's Side Quest. It's a horror book sale event that quite a few members of our HWA New York chapter will be participating with. And so that's kind of cool. So mark your calendars. We'll put the link in the chat, but it's a one-day event in Port Jervis, New York, which is right on the edge of New Jersey and New York State, and should be a lot of fun. You know, it's going to be so cool to see all the different books that people bring to sell there. So that'll be kind of cool.
Think of a better way to celebrate Valentine's Day than with horror,
right? You know. Well, it's sort of the that's perfect. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. Roses and candy or old hat. You need a good collection of horror stories.
Red is red. Red. I'm just saying, red is red. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's another event coming up at the end of February called LICH, LICH, which is the Long Island Convention of Horror. And this is a convention that celebrates horror in both film, literature, comic books, and fiction, being held at the Hyatt Regency Long Island, February 27th to March 1st. And a bunch of us went to the first one last year, and it was so much fun. It was great seeing authors and books as well as all the other media that can represent and share horror. And I had a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to that one again. So,
that was a great time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. And then the thing we frequently talk about is StokerCon, but I'll let you talk about that, Jim, because you know a few things about it.
I do know a few things about StokerCon, and probably a few things I'd like to forget. StokerCon 2026 is coming up in June, 4th to the 7th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it will be the 10th anniversary of the Horror Writers Association's annual convention, annual professional conference. We have a fantastic lineup of guests of honor, including Madison, John Shirley, Bill Martin, Rachel Harrison, and Vandermeer and James Tinian. And we're hard at work on programming and activities and all sorts of special surprises. So if you haven't registered for StokerCon, go over to stokercon.com and check it out and see if you want to come. And we'll also be running a virtual version of the convention for those who, for whatever reason, cannot make it to Iron City, the city of bridges, Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And the fact if somebody's here listening to the show, they clearly like readings. And that's one of the neat things about the virtual program. If you can't make it in person, there's a ton of readings that you can catch up and learn a lot about the authors and hear their stories in their own words, which is one of my favorite things. It's one of the reasons we like to do this show.
Yes.
So, yeah. And one last thought, January 2026 is now the International Gothic Reading Month, IGRM. And it's sponsored by the Society for the Study of the American Gothic. And there's some information about that that we can share as well. So how cool is that? Let's take the month of January and we'll read Gothic works. That's going to be a lot of fun.
IGRM. I love that little cathedral-y kind of building between the trees. That graphic.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It kind of looks like a Stoker Award. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of the church at the end of In the Mouth of Madness.
Oh, yes.
It's a little bit like that. So yeah, let's drop that information into the chat.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, what do you think? We have a bunch of really cool readers, and I'd love to hear some words from them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we should get started with the good stuff and go ahead with our first reading.
Yeah, sounds great. I'd love to introduce our first reader, Oliver Baer, who is the editor for Cthulhu Sex Magazine and 2 backed books. Now he edits role-playing game manuals. He mostly writes dark poetry and horror stories. His stories have appeared in April Gray's anthologies, as well as Even in the Grave, 2 books of Soul Scream Antholozine, and KGB Lit. His poetry has appeared in Goodreads Best Poems 2020, Empire Poetry Verse, Here We Are, 2 books of Soul Scream Antholozine, A Thin Slice of Anxiety. Oh, that's a great title. The Gorko Gazette, Punk Noir Magazine, Paper Teller Diorama, Horror Between the Sheets, and the HWA Poetry Showcase Volume 2, and other publications. He has 2 books out, Letters to the Editor of Cthulhu Sex Magazine and Bare Soul. He was also the writer for Dina Warner's Halloween Card Project in 2021, and has a CD of poetry set to music, Gathering Souls by a Conclave of Bear, which became a show in New York City. He's appeared as an indescribable horror from the depths, and his likeness has appeared on TV and film. He can be found in the virtuality on social media, on Twitter at OBEAR, and on Facebook as OBEAR3, and much of his work can be found at tentacularity.wordpress.com. Oliver.
Hello. So I'm going to be reading from my story, We Who Serve, which was published in KGB Lit. And it's basically 4 vignettes that kind of put together a story. So we're going to read the second one and possibly the fourth one. The second one is Diary Entries of Inspector Tennyson Macleone. I have lived in a world of twilight for a while. Black and white are not necessarily as interesting. It is much easier to deal, not to mention to do, this job if I think this way. The thin blue line not being the stalwart figures of justice I believe them to be. So I have taken to looking at them the same way I do the rest of the perps, as a means to an end. People who do drugs, who have mental illness, we are all them. Robert was no exception. I believed he was a key to helping me bust open a case of missing persons. How could I know that this was a case that would lead to the dark and terrible knowledge that I now possess? They come to me out of the darkness, he said. You have to get these things for me, he would say, as he tried to cover up the track marks. Robert and I had been hanging out for more than a year. More than a year of me covering for his coke habit, his lies, his paranoia. What did I care? They were just stories. It seems that the best stories come out of people's darkness, their insecurities, their problems, their fears. People seem more attentive to the joys of people if they seem to have a redemptive quality about them. All of these were the rationales I had built up during my years on the force. How was I to know that these stories were valid relations of the horrible truth? So, it was a tremendous feat when about 3 hours later, after an intense discussion, we left Robert's building to get something to eat. Robert loved sushi. So we went to his favorite place on Avenue A. We sat there while he told me of the entities that stepped out of the darkness to attack him. This is why he started learning the dark arts. A phrase that I was to learn was very apropos. I had always suspected Robert of being a Satanist, but every time I brought this up, he would go off on a diatribe about the prejudice against witchcraft in this society. He would lecture about the true practice of witchcraft, its dependence on intent and the difference between white and black magic. Then assure me that he was not the one kidnapping women for some twisted ritual. He was kidnapping them for sex. He would pause and then laugh nervously at me, saying that he was not kidnapping them. They went with him willingly. He was sure the entities had been sent by someone who knew he had been cheating on his wife. His cheating was rather tame in my book. It involved seeing prostitutes and engaging in S&M. I suspected that some of them were using Robert for their own nefarious ends. I was hoping one of these ends would lead to some information I was looking for. I did not realize just how nefarious and deviant they would be. Of course, in hindsight, I should have realized when I noticed Robert's track marks oozing a dark liquid. I was called to a site today that gave me pause. A pause that sends chills up one's spines. Not sure why I believe I once had multiple spines. And it makes one wish for another line of work. There was a report of a disturbance at the corner of Houston Street and 2nd Avenue. As I was approaching the site, there was a large explosion, followed by an unearthly scream and a loud thump as something hit my windshield. It was a head. I cursed, hit the brakes, and called for backup. Upon arriving on the scene, I saw only rubble and pieces of what I thought were twisted metal. I tried to question people in the area as to the source of the explosion. No one seemed to know, as they saw no one go into the structure and no one come out. As I started to pick my way through the rubble, I saw that what I thought were pieces of twisted metal were not metal at all. They were pieces of human beings shaped into supporting structures and strengthened in much the same way as carbonized steel. At one point, there was a shift in the rubble near me, and a shadow stretched forth towards me. As it touched me, I felt a clamminess and a fell whispering in my mind. I jerked myself away and stumbled over the rubble towards my car as fast as I could. I cannot tell you what horrors it related to me in that moment, but I swear it is still around, looking for a way to make itself whole, looking for something that will complete it, looking for a place that it can hold up until it can enact its terrible revenge. Perhaps I should warn Robert that what he fears is true. Now, this section may be the thing making itself whole. Now, this story was found with a DVD. The footage has been restored after some difficulty, but it is still unclear whether it is documentary or not. If what it portrays is true, there is no hope, for what was dead and banished could have returned already. Then the real darkness shall begin. I believe in darkness, not the warm embrace or the awesome wonder with the pinpricks of light and the living sounds, but the suffocating, drowning helplessness one feels as the blackness engulfs you. It is this I see, droplets of it in every soul I encounter. There is help for them, if they will accept it. There are days that I wish I could blind myself, but this would only result in the other senses alerting me to its presence. It was not always this way. I was taken one night, taken to a twilight-lit room of impossible dimensions. The angles were all wrong, as if there were secret rooms and passageways built into it. The room was waiting for me. A film projected against the wall seemed to be the only light in the room. The film was basically several suicide notes strung together with the deaths cut in between each person. Just when it seemed to be over, the film would loop back to the first person speaking, and I was subjected to the whole thing over again. This in itself would not have been so horrible if I did not feel like I was being watched as well. As I attuned myself to the rest of the room beside the film, I noticed other things about my gray world. There was a shuffling, sliding noise behind the wall, followed by a weird slap, or perhaps it was a creak. I could not tell. The bathroom, if one can call the small alcove that, seemed to resonate with a dripping, sloshing sound without any water running. The tile and pipes sweating with condensation, the room warm to my attentions. I walked back to the film. I sat down, and for the first time, I noticed other figures in the background of the film. They were not noticeable at first, being only a face in the window, a shadow on the wall, or a sound in the air. As I studied it, I started to see these people, for that is what I will call them, reaching out to the suicides as they were dying. I thought it was in comfort until I noticed their shadows. At least I thought it was their shadows. As I leaned closer to examine it, I thought I saw them drawing darkness out of them. It was more like strands of ebon liquid were flowing out of them as the shadows slid over the body. The body writhed and twitched in what I can only describe as ecstatic paroxysms. I shifted my gaze to the dead face, expecting to see a look of peace upon it. Instead, they were left with impassive death masks. The room started to bleed into me. They will regret what they have done. I left the room in the company of two people. I could not distinguish their features in the pale light. They were wearing red robes to my white. The red seemed to beckon to me. As we got to the door at the end of the hallway, one of them turned towards me. By the light streaming in through the door, I caught a glimpse of face. It seemed vaguely familiar. As we walked into the area beyond the door, it seemed to open up into a large domed courtyard with a large obsidian block in the center. Its blackness whispered to me seductively. Upon the block, there was a humanoid shape. There were numbers of people dressed in white and red robes standing around it chanting. As we got closer, the robes parted before me, and the chanting swelled in intensity. I was led up to the dais where a young woman lay. There was a rumbling sound as in an approaching storm. It was then I realized that I had not eaten in days. I stepped up to the woman, turned to the people flanking me, and realized where I had seen them before. They were dead ringers for the suicides in the film. At that moment, I knew not what happened. The chanting crescendoed. Someone in a white robe stepped up, and red liquid flowed over my robe. The white robe sleeve covering my arm, sucking the red out of the sycophant. The altar turned into tar and flowed over me and the woman. There was a noiseless scream and a reverse flash of light, as if everything became a photo negative for a second. I was on top of her and in her, absorbing every bit of her essence. It was only when there was nothing left that I noticed that the storm had abated and my hunger ceased. I stood up in a glistening black robe and surveyed my followers. And there's more at the beginning. There's an interview on a TV screen or something that could be an interview with somebody that set this thing loose. But somehow, maybe you'll just have to get a copy of KGB Lit and find out.
Oliver, thank you. Where can somebody find KGB Lit to find out? Because I kind of want to find out.
Right. Well, I think you have to go to the KGB Google KGB Literary Magazine or KGBlit.com, I think it is.
Okay.
And then you have to contact the editor, because I think the current thing up on their website is not this cover.
Oh, okay. So you've got to ask for issue 25 grounding.
Right.
In particular.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the other thing you can do is, I think there are issues of this in Village Works bookstore on St. Mark's in Manhattan.
Okay.
Good
to know.
And the editor's
so
name for this is Harrigan Miller.
Okay. So it is available for people who want to read the rest of the story.
It is. Right. It is. But I think they haven't redone their website since he became editor.
Okay.
So
here we go. We're getting a tip from
there you go.
1580 Village Works Bookstore, St. Mark's, New York City. All right.
Yes.
Well, we're going to move on. We have a question in from the audience that is a more moving in a more tentacular direction. So I think we'll start with that. This comes from Teal James Glenn. Oliver, you have a long-standing connection / fascination with H.P. Lovecraftian ethos. I think the Lovecraft mythos. Where does this come from, and how does it affect your human interactions?
Where does it come? So originally it came from the guy who basically got me deeper into horror. Was a big H.P. Lovecraft fan.
Okay.
So he originally got me into it, and then somewhere down the line I met other people and we did Cthulhu Sex Magazine, and that just sort of started the transformation, shall we say, or the possession. How has it influenced my human interactions? Well, that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that when you started to sort of detach from your corporeal manifestation?
Yes.
And yeah.
Right. Yes. Basically, yes. I say, I keep this meat suit on because you can't get cultists when you actually show your true face. And you can't teleport and dimension travel in public because it freaks the people out, yes. Which again loses you cultists. So we try to maintain some and learn your somewhat human ways and foibles and.
Well, these are the practical considerations of being a cosmic entity here on Earth.
Yeah.
But so cultists is an interesting segue for us. So the story you just read from involves some cultists and cult activity. And I think you've written about these themes before, but this
Yeah.
mostly in poetry. And this is a prose piece, a story.
Right.
What is it that I guess helps you decide when you're starting to write something, if it's a poem or prose, and if it needs cultists or not?
Right. So usually, the way I decide is usually my poems. I think the poems are more abstract, I guess is the best
Right.
way to put it. So, and the stories, the stories, I just you have to explain your abstraction. So while I like abstracting in stories, because to me that's one of the ways to write like true Lovecraftian style, is to sort of abstract out what you're describing. But in a story, you need more. I think one of the ways you would describe it is you need more there.
Right.
You need more description, because most people don't really like a story where they have to put so much together. It doesn't make sense to them. Whereas a poem, they're kind of already into the idea of I have to kind of fill in the blanks myself.
Yeah, so I think readers, if I follow you correctly, you're saying readers are more accepting of sort of an impressionistic experience, or reading a piece that's open to their interpretation when they're reading poetry.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But for a story,
Yeah.
they like everything, beginning,
Right.
middle, end.
Right.
And yeah, and I think that's true. But you do a nice job of walking that line, because your prose stories are evocative and often hint at abstracts that you don't wind up explaining completely. That's part of the horror of it, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I think that's part of the horror of it, is that, I think one of the things, to me, one of the sort of genius things behind Lovecraft and his writing was his ability to create fear, or how people react when they are fearful, and put that on the page. And most of the time, how human beings react when they're fearful is a sort of abstracted way of viewing the world. So it's not just madness, it's also a sort of fragmented way of viewing the world, because one of the big things that happens with human beings when they're fearful is they get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So and then they get very focused on particular things. So their way of going about in the world is, you could say, not a full view of the world as it is. So I think, like when I tell a story, I'm glad that the abstraction is not as distracting, and that it does come across in a more, I guess, fuller way.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. When you're in a state of intense anxiety or fear, or your fight or flight reflex has really kicked in, certain things become crystal clear and immediate, and you're totally focused on them, and everything else just kind of doesn't exist until you come out of that mode. And it is a fragmentation, right. So that's interesting that you're translating that into your fiction.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that's what I try to do. I mean, I'm also a big fan of, I guess, open endings, or
Ambiguity.
I think of them, yeah, I think of them as non-endings,
Yeah.
because again, my idea is when you're in that state, if you're in a state of constant anxiety or constant fear, it is never ending. So, but for a story or even a poem, like you, even the reader wants it to end.
Yeah.
But there is no ending, especially if you're writing from the character's point of view.
Yeah, if they've had that experience or that brush with sort of cosmic horror or some greater truth about just how meaningless they are in the grand scheme of things, then
Right.
yeah, it's not an effect you can get past. It's sort of permanent.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So like to end the story is not really in keeping with, I guess, the style or the situation. I think that the character that you're talking about is in, because to them it doesn't end.
Now, let me ask you another question, changing subjects just a bit, because you mentioned in your bio Cthulhu Sex Magazine, and
Right.
your book cover that we featured is the letters to Cthulhu Sex Magazine, and I think probably a lot of people watching us tonight or watching this on the recording are unfamiliar with what Cthulhu Sex Magazine was. Do you want to give us sort of the nutshell account of that infamous publication?
Okay. Well, the nutshell account, of which Jim has never recovered from, was it was a magazine of poetry, prose, and artwork that was, we said, inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, and one of the ideas was to try to get people to write things that we thought H.P. Lovecraft himself would never write. So, in other words, writing in his style, but then, like he would never write about sex. The closest he ever came to sex was Call of Cthulhu with the cultists in the swamp. And even then, he just managed to change it into basically a racist orgy. I think he referred to it as an orgy, but he wouldn't describe it any more than that, because for that early 20th century New Englander that he was, that would be anathema.
Yeah, and it lasted how many issues altogether?
Yeah.
Do you remember offhand? Am I putting you on the spot to count?
So as you know, we had some great luck with the magazine. We had a lot of great people who were big at the time, or maybe have become somewhat known.
Yeah.
I think we even published something by a young man who was doing comic books and other things, who looked very similar to you, but younger.
Yes, I was much younger. I think we all were younger back in those days, and definitely was happy to be part of that magazine while it was in its heyday. So, well, Oliver, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and we'll have you back on a little bit later to talk about what you have coming up next.
All right.
Thank you. All right, our next reader is Jennifer McCardle. Jennifer writes mostly short speculative fiction and has around 50 pieces published, with more upcoming. Her story, The Mules, was a 2022 Brave New Weird winner. For her day job, she helps administer grants for an animal conservation organization. She grew up in the Hudson Valley area of New York and lives there now, but she also lived in Asia for more than 6 years, in South Korea, and later in Indonesia. She recently had a little boy this past spring, and she hopes he will one day enjoy his mom's stories as much as he likes blowing raspberries. You can find out more about Jennifer at jenniferjeanmcardle.blogspot.com. And let's welcome Jennifer.
Hi, good evening. I'm going to be reading from my story, Westward I Reach, which appeared in Baubles from Bones, issue 6, fall 2025. Okay. I'm just going to be reading the beginning of the story. So, Mama says we need to wear long sleeves, ankle-length skirts, and thick stockings because we mustn't show the hair on our heads or our bodies when the Sassenach men come. We still call what grows from our moist skin hair, but if someone looked closely, he would see what grows is not like the hair of humans or dogs. They are little tubes, and when I stick my hands deep into the soil, my tubes stretch toward the tubes under the earth, toward what blooms mushrooms and connects the roots, and we communicate with the grasses and the flowers, the crops, the bushes that whisper of once great forests, wolves that howled and hunted stags, kings, heroes, dances, and fairies, a great past long gone. Mama says we aren't to tell the Sassenach men that we can do this. We can't let them see us use the language of the soil. Rich Sassenach who live across the sea own our land and never visit, but sell what we grow. The government inspectors surveying for famine relief efforts hardly ever come here because most of them feel we are different, even if they don't know it yet. The children gossip that someone in our parish hundreds of years ago, 20 years ago, perhaps just 5 years ago, stepped into a circle of mushrooms, sold his blood, his soul, something of the animal inside him, to the she, and we were all changed. Anyway, the old Lord is dead, is what is whispered by the men, by the grass too, and the queen of the Sassenach and her soldiers say our land, the land we creep in and through and out, the land in which we bury ourselves, the land we dig up the foreign blighted roots from. She says this land and everything we grow is hers now, not ours, never ours. And Mama says we have to pretend we're not special and that we're starving like the others and that we want to be Sassenach and have hair, not mushroom threads. We must not dance or sing when the Sassenach men arrive, but on special nights we light a great fire and play our Bauern drums and whistles into the night, our feet stomping on the earth, connecting, disconnecting with the land. Before you could travel the countryside and everyone would dance, but since the blight and famine, fewer folks dance, the nights grow quieter, and even my neighbors and parents are forgetting so many songs, preferring the soil to air. Other folks fear us because of our mushroom threads. They wonder if we can eat blighted food, can we eat blighted people too? Yet we fear them because they are so very hungry. Sassenach in very white shirts and black coats come to our hamlet. They carry pistols and are afraid. Across the countryside lurks famished ghouls, white boy rebels in masks, families too fey-touched to be sane. Maybe. We have a cabin of just 2 rooms that smell of wet straw and dying fire and nothing to offer them to eat because their bodies aren't changed like ours. The thin eyebrows of the Sassenach are pushed down as the leader writes things in a little book. Mrs. Rafferty, he says to Mama, how is it that people are starving throughout this whole country, but here everyone looks so plump and healthy? He speaks Birla slowly, but Ma and Pa made me go to school for years at the church, and the brothers and sisters taught me both tongues before the Great Hunger, before we were changed. Sometimes I remember being more human, and sometimes I think we were always this way, but maybe I am remembering the former life of the fungus inside me. I don't know, Mama answers. I guess the Lord has blessed us. She forces a smile, and the leader Sassenach writes more in his book. Maybe it was the she who helped us, as the rumors say, or the Lord, like my Mama just claimed, or even the devil himself. But we can eat the blighted potatoes without getting sick, unlike other folks who don't have the mushroom threads living inside them. The elders in our parish are proud because so many young folks are leaving Erin but not our hamlet. We're holding tight to one another. The Sassenach leave after talking to our neighbors, but before they go, one of the officials say that our village smells strange, that something about us makes them fearful. I suppose I can't blame him because I feel the same about them. A chill runs up my spine as the officials look me up and down. These ones look healthy, I suppose, and they speak English. There might yet be hope for this damned island. A month passes, so few people visit us, and other parishes, folks with infants born thin and long and shrieking for breast milk that dried up long ago, are toiling away in workhouses. The wandering beggars are afraid to come to our hamlet, but they are so desperate they wander near the edges of the field or dig through our blighted crops, ransack homes in the night, wondering if we aren't hiding good food somewhere or if somehow they too can become like us. But none of us know how to change others, and they don't believe us that we would if we could. I returned from playing with my friends in the nearby creek. We like to bury each other in the soil, to spread ourselves, reaching as far as we can, connecting to the roots and the worms and the empty burrows of digging animals. Mama looks pale. Papa's eyes are sunken deep in his face. His mushroom threads are twisted and bent. They want to take you away, Bridget. Who? I ask, my tongue feeling heavy in my mouth. We don't usually speak aloud anymore, just communicate through the threads. Speaking means that maybe her feelings are too big, too dangerous. They say there's a lady over in Alba. She has a school for girls, and she wants to help the hungry Irish. She says she feels pity for the Irish, so she wants to take our children. They want to take you, Bridget. Why choose me, I ask. Everyone says you're bright and pretty, and you do what your mama asks. I don't know what to say. I look at my sisters, but they don't connect to me. I think of the Sassenach men with their pink skin. My neighbors, the other little girls, have skin with a yellow-green undertone, but my skin remains almost as pink as the Sassenach men's. If someone stares too deeply into our eyes, they will see things twisting and moving, ready for grasping, but I look away when spoken to. Compared to the other children, I appear more normal. Must I go? Mama gets up and sweeps, although the floor of our tiny cabin will never be clean. I repeat my question. If the Sassenach knew what we've become, they'd burn us like they used to burn their witches. You don't have to go, but... My father responds and rubs the temples in his head. He moves more quickly than usual, less steady and patient like the mushroom threads. The seriousness of our situation has blanched the magic from his blood. You think if you go, you will appease them for a while, my oldest sister crosses her arms. And maybe once you leave here, you'll change back. Other Iraq folks are begging to leave. They've nothing to eat. They'd swim to America if they could, and you've got the chance to study for free at some fancy school in Alba. They'd think we were cruel or mad to keep you here. I had forgotten the sound of her voice. It scrapes the inside of her throat, and her yellowed eyes glow from her dark corner of the room. We cannot make her depart, Mama says suddenly. She carries us with her. What happens if she leaves? She sits down. Bridget is lucky enough to go to Alba, not as far as Australia or New York. My sister takes my hand, and we connect. You will leave or you will destroy us, is what she tells me with her whole self. The Englishmen, if I'm to live with them, I should call them as they want to be called, come to take me. We will go by carriage to Dublin, and I am desperately sad but excited because Mama and Papa haven't taken us out of our hamlet in months, not since our dresses and scarves were torn by the hungry in the nearby town because they saw our fat, round arms and thought we had something to give them. They followed us first with hollowed eyes, then shambling steps, begging in two tongues because if we could eat, we were likely rich, because perhaps English or simply fashioning ourselves to be. They smelled of rot, of diarrhea, of sicknesses too foul to name, and the fungus inside me thought that maybe they were food, but we did not, and Mama says we won't ever eat human flesh because we may be different, but we're still good souls. From our carriage, I watch lines of the poor in the distance, waiting, huddling with children, unable to keep their eyes open, wailing for the government men to give them food, trying to prove they are both desperate and dignified enough to deserve charity. On the roads, men and women slap stones with rusted hammers, attempting to earn their relief as their naked skin fries in the weak sunlight. The hungriest and most naked are wandering like dying bees at the end of summer, buzzing in circles, their homes destroyed by their landlord, and no one willing to care for walking corpses. Their hunger has made them too tired. We do not fear violence, not from them, but there are other men fueled by spite, hiding in the hills of the countryside, ready to devour the helpless. Lazy wretches, Mr. Bradford, the Englishman who collected me, does not move his hand from the holster of his pistol. Are your parents still Pope worshippers? He speaks directly to me for the first time, as though the conversation with a child is finally preferable to dwelling on the wretchedness of the countryside. Not anymore, I answer. Mr. Bradford smiles. He thinks I mean to say they have become some other kind of Christian, an English type of Christian. But really, my parents pray to the land, the things older than names, because that's who had answered us. Mama said God takes many forms, but Papa said God hates us. Regardless of where God is or what he likes, I feel alone, my dress scratching, the mushroom gills breathing from in my armpits and elbows and behind my knees. And I am praying to anyone who will listen that they do not bring me to a doctor who will know that I am different, who will destroy me, and I will never go home. Okay, that's it.
Ooh, very cool. I enjoyed that a lot. You may remember I was able to edit an anthology of mushroom horror, and I love this topic because it's so amazing the way they connect. And you've got that right, starting us out right at the beginning of the story. They're connecting on the ground, they're communicating. Oh, wonderfully creepy. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing the call for the mushroom stories, and unfortunately, I think I thought of this story after that call had already ended. I think at the time I was like, oh, I love that idea, but I couldn't think of anything in time.
Yes, and time that happens to me too. Is you think it's like, you think of, it's like when I think of what to say to somebody after I've left the room. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's funny how our brains go. Yeah. So it's an interesting time, and it's an interesting place, and several people were interested, wanted to ask you about that. We have a question from Jim Ryan, who asks, what drew you to the Great Famine as a setting for the story?
So actually, I think the seeds for this story, spores for this story were originally planted like a few years before I wrote it. I wrote this, I think, sometime in 2024. But I want to say in 2021, or I visited Ireland. I had visited as a teenager, but I had visited again. And I went to the Immigration Museum in Dublin. And I remember walking into one of the maps, and the map had these like little thin blue lines showing all the places that people left Ireland to go to, and where they settled around the world. And at the time, I was reading on the plane a nonfiction book about fungus. It's by Merlin Sheldrake. It's like the really popular one.
Yes. It's on my shelf over there. Yeah.
This Entangled Life, that's, and so I think when I was seeing in the museum those like little blue lines that remind me of like the little lines.
Yes. The mycelia,
yeah. So that's why it always stuck in my head. And I had seen a call for stories. They wanted stories set in the Industrial Revolution time, so in the 1800s. But they wanted it as somewhere in the British Empire that were in the Industrial Revolution. And so because that's what I thought of, and so I drafted this story for that call. But they had rejected it. So.
It happens all the time.
But it ended up, eventually landing in Bowels from Bones. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, this is a slightly similar but slightly different question from Teal, who wants to know, was there a particular Celtic legend or myth that inspired the tale of the famine? Or did you just draw from the historical?
No, I looked. I did read. I did want to sit down and like really read into the history of the famine a bit more, because I know we had learned a little bit about it in school. And obviously I knew it from traveling, and they talked about it a bit. And I know some of my dad's side of the family had, actually, I don't know, I think they all came after the famine, but so I picked up I do want to remember I can't remember the exact title of the book, but it was a historical book that really went into the details of actually life during the famine and all the government policies and how the government policies at the time had exacerbated the famine and made it worse, and all like the hypocrisy and the propaganda around the famine and what they were doing for the poor that wasn't actually helping the poor. And it went through like all those different levels, but it also talked a little bit about the history of Ireland and how a lot of the natural like plants and animals that had been in Ireland had died off by the time of the famine because the land had been so overused. So like Ireland used to have a ton of wolves in it, but they had all died off by the famine times. And Ireland used to have these huge forests, but they'd all been cut down. So I wanted to kind of play with that idea that you have this land that's been made really barren, kind of like because of, human, action and overuse. And that's really more like what I drew from than any like legend.
Yeah. And that's fascinating. And in your story, the humans are the ones who are not doing well, and the mycelia creatures are the ones who are. Humans are up and they're the ones who are paying for it. Wow. Yeah. Perhaps our country should listen to this kind of idea. Just saying. Yeah. No, that's cool. Well, I'm also intrigued. I write a lot of short stories as well, as you do and say you do. But you write a bunch of different flavors of horror, because I know you have some body horror, and you write some things based on legends and folklore and myths and such as well, and even some punk kind of stuff. So what is it like for you to write different flavors of horror? How do you choose what you write?
I mean, I think maybe it's I need to pick a lane a little bit more, because I think it's hard to market myself, because I think I don't have like one lane. Like for this one specifically, I wanted to look at the language in The Dead by James Joyce, and the ending of this one, if you read the whole story, is meant to purposely kind of be very similar to the ending of Joyce. This is The Dead, which is one of the last story in The Dubliners, which is his book of short stories. So I think with this one, the prose, I really wanted it to be in a certain style, but it's kind of hard because other things I write, I want to get the prose a little more surreal, but I can't. But it worked for this one.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's just kind of, I think I'm the type of person that gets like very hyper fascinated by something for a period of time, and then I kind of like let it go, for better or worse. So I think that's why I'll kind of dip into like different styles, so.
Well, I understand doing a deep dive on something because, so many things are fascinating, and then you learn a lot from it. And then after a while, the brain says, I'm a little full of you.
Yeah.
Moves on.
So I think, so I think why I might try different styles is just because like that's what my brain has decided to hyper focus on.
Yeah.
For that particular,
And I also happen to know that you put together an anthology of your own, the Escalators. Is it Escalators to Hell? Right? Was that the name of it?
Yes.
Yes. And I thought that was such a clever idea with shopping mall horror. So
I
read a number of those stories, and it was really creepy thinking of the zombies walking around in the shopping mall and things like that. So
we actually didn't get too many zombie stories, surprisingly, because I would have thought we would have gotten more given the
shambling shoppers. Yeah.
Yeah, we got and a lot of the slush was abandoned malls, actually. So that's what had the zeitgeist that had captured the slush pile. So So, but yeah, that was I was approached by Mike. Why is his name? I do know his name.
You're on the spot, so you can't think of the name. That's
yes, I do know him well because I worked with him. But
you'll think of it as soon as we stop talking. I know.
So he approached me, the owner of From Beyond Press, and I had read Slush for him for his bug anthology.
Wow. Well, that's a huge time investment.
I
know. Yeah.
So actually we did the whole slush pile ourselves for the mall antho. It was just the two of us. So it was ended up being like 250 stories or so. So it wasn't too bad, but
Yeah. It's only like 10 books worth of stories, come on.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But cool.
Yeah,
No, that's really fun. Yeah. Yeah. I enjoy doing both things, and it brings a different part of our brain to bear, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have a nice comment here.
Oh yeah.
Kayla says, one of my favorite short stories by Jen is a sci-fi piece with praying mantis people.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. I don't know which one that's in. Yeah.
Oh, that was. I think she's talking about something I published a long time ago, and I think it was 2019 that it had come out. But yeah, that's very sweet of her to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I love it when a story makes a mark like that, and when it's so cool because when somebody mentions something like that, it's like, A, you read it, B, you remembered it, and C, you actually said it. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Well, I also want to share. You had given us the link for this Storyverse that you just read. The piece was it's about The Westward I Reach is the name of it, right? Yeah.
Yes. So you can buy the issue from. I think they sell their stuff on Etsy. Is I think how Bubbles from Bone does it. But they also put all of the stories for free online to read,
really cool.
Which is very nice of them to do for their authors. Because I know a lot of times when you're trying to sell a magazine issue, people don't necessarily want to buy it if it's not a magazine they're familiar with. So it's very, very nice that Baubles from Bone they do both.
Well, I think it's cool because people can read a story and then say, oh, I like this, so I think I will probably like the rest of the magazine.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of smart to do.
So you can, the whole story is about 6,000 words. So it is available online. If you do get the issue, they do have a bunch of really lovely illustrations in it too. Which is nice.
Yeah, and that cover was really cool. Yeah, that's really neat. Well, thank you so much for sharing your words and chatting. I really enjoyed hearing this, and I didn't read it online yet because I wanted to hear you read it first. So I'm going to have to go find out, see what happens.
Yeah, so I want to apologize. There are some Irish words in there, and I know I probably didn't pronounce them all totally correctly.
That's all right because I can't tell. I've been there. I've been to Ireland, but I don't know. Yeah. Well, what we'd love to do is have you come back on at the end and tell us a little bit more about what else you have coming up.
Yep.
If you would. So, thanks for joining us. So much. See you soon. Cool. And our final reader, I'm excited to share, RAFAEL TAVARES went to school for broadcasting, but he's been a writer all his life. He formed a comedy troupe with Cadma, eventually starting Bitten Apple TV to showcase all the amazing creators, vendors, writers, and artists they met, and to get the word out there about their great stuff. He also started his writing show, The Written Writ. Then the pandemic hit, and an artist friend said, Ralph, I have all this art and nowhere to sell it. He started a live show to tell the people all about it, and boom, they were streaming live whenever possible. He also continues to work with filming, voiceover work, editing, writing, and other creative endeavors. He's currently working on publishing a comic, a book of short stories, and a book of poetry, and recently joined a bunch of creators on We Suck at Comics, his first published work. Ralph, looking forward to your words.
Well, hello there, Applebites. This is your Applebite Written Writ Ralph talking to you. And of course, at Bitten Apple TV, during the holidays, we like to do a little thing because I believe that Christmas is not Christmas without ghost stories. And what we started to do with every other year or every couple of years, we would have people come on and write their ghost stories for the Christmas holidays. So I wrote my own piece, which was a little bit on Krampus. And that's what I'm going to read for you guys today. And hopefully I'll read that one, and I'll read the second one that I did for the second time that we did it. And maybe if we have time, I might read you a little bit of what we're planning to show on the 22nd on the show. So you'll get a preview of that before anybody else does. I guess we'll see what happens. So let's pull this up here and see how far we get. His heart races. He can hear it in his head. It pounds as if someone trying to break a door down. He had been running now for some time, but that was not the reason his heart threatened to come out of his throat. He leans against the wall, frantically trying to catch his breath. All he needs is a small break, and then he can keep running. Then he can get away. Yet each time he thought he had gotten away, he had been found. Each time he thought he was alone, there was a taunting, someone getting closer and closer. Tommy, oh, Tommy. He heard the voice that was now haunting him chime in from the darkness, the very shadows. His heart sped up. His stomach threatened to release his dinner, and his head felt light as he almost succumbed to the dark. He starts running again, his body protesting, his heart threatening to explode from his chest. Come on, Tommy. Don't make this harder than it has to be. He runs, his feet stumble over nothing, and his legs feel like they have become gelatin. Running is so difficult, and he falls and falls again and falls yet again. He sees a dark hole and jumps into the filthy garbage dump. Tommy, you have been such a bad boy. Just come out and I will take it easy on you. Or I can come find you and things will be so much worse. Alone in the dark, in his hole, he tries to stifle whimpers that will assuredly get him found. His heart beats, and he swears that it's calling out to the stranger, that his heart's calling out to the stranger, bringing him to him as if war drums in the thick forest of the darkest lands. Hands emerge from the shadows, followed by a strong arm that wraps around Tommy. Soon, a toothy smile becomes visible. The small fangs give it a menacing look. Tommy swallows hard as the voice whispers in his ear, Tommy, Tommy, Tommy. Tisk, tisk, tisk. It's bad enough you are a bad boy, and Santa has you on his naughty list. But trying to destroy the belief of other children just because you get coal, that is just downright evil. How dare you destroy someone else's faith? Looks like you need to be given something other than coal. Now I'll give you one chance. Go be good. Go be a good kid. Go be good. Keep Christmas in your heart year round, and maybe, just maybe, Krampus will let you be. If not, the laugh that follows enters Tommy's mind, enters Tommy's soul, and exits as warm and yellow. Tommy is running. He doesn't know when he started, and even though he feels like he can't catch his breath, he does not want to stop. The laugh feels like it's following him, or is it in his head? He runs and he runs and he runs till he is only but a dot in the distance, and the stranger smiles mischievously as he exits the shadows, checks Tommy's name off the list and says, "Oh, Jimmy, you've been a bad boy." With that, he disappears into the night, and in the distance, someone screams, someone runs, and Krampus smiles. So that is the first one, and it looks like I got time to give you guys the second one. And here we go. Once upon a Christmas season, a man stood outside decorated building. He looked right, he looked left, he looked through the windows like the naughty boy he was. His eyes got so big at the many gifts he saw as he tried to get in and get them all. Did he care that the family worked hard to get these gifts? No, not one thought entered his empty head. He just continued instead. Lonnie wanted a cart with paints galore so she could show the world all she adores. Caleb a pad with a lovely writing pen so he could share his stories of adventure and great treasure. Their parents, happy with such lovely children, spent what they had to reward such diligence. No gifts for him were under this tree, but he did not care. He just wanted his share. Boo-hoo-hoo, what a hard life I've had. So what if I take what I want? Is that bad? He said, choosing to share misery, strife, and dread, giving himself excuses on what was right, since he had things so tight. A hot breath at his back gave him a pause, but when he turned and saw nothing, he shrugged it and went on. cracked the window as he went in, hoping no one heard, wishing time for him to take. Crinkle, crinkle went the glass as he tiptoed forward, yet no one came to check on the noise. Maybe, just maybe, they were all fast asleep. His smile got wide as he grabbed the gifts galore and placed them in his sack like a crooked Saint Nick. He then heard boots walk across the living room floor. Giving him pause, he held his breath in awe. Yet upon turning left, he saw not a thing. No one was there. It was just quiet and dead. Onward and onward, toy after toy, even the cart with the pad for the art. A mighty crack-a-boom echoed through the room. Startled, he turned to face what he thought was certain doom. Yet nothing was there but the burning, crackling flame dancing so gracefully in the fireplace. But when he turned to grab his booty, the bag was empty and all the gifts were under the tree. He then swore he heard a quiet tee-hee. He looked right, he looked left, he looked at the chimney, nice and ablaze, but there was nothing but fire burning all steady. Maybe it's just me. Yeah, it's just me. It's just, I'm stressed. He tried to convince himself, but the words fell false. Then seeing the milk and cookies, he made his way over. He ate all the cookies with a munch, 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 and drank all the milk with a gulp, gulp, gulp. Feeling so much better, he left out a sigh. That is until he heard a sick tisk, tisk, tisk. Again he looked left. Again he looked right. He tried to look ahead, but it wasn't too bright. He could swear in the shadows he saw a big figure, but it could not be, it should not be who he thought it was. Could it be? Was it he? Santa? He eked with his heart all a beat and was greeted not by a boisterous ho, 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 but a mischievous he. His eyes tried to focus, hoping it was all just hocus pocus. Can you guess who stepped out? Was it the jolly old elf smiling warmly at him? No, it was saucy, sneering little old me with a great big He jumped with a scare and ran straight out of there. He ran to the left, he ran to the right. Oh, and did I say he was in such a fright? It was boo to the left of him and boo to the right. And he ran and ran with all his might. I laughed just a little, then I laughed a whole lot. I laughed oh so much that his hair turned oh white. Everywhere he went, every mood he spent, I was there to stare. Everywhere he turned, I was there to scare. Finally he turned, tears in his eyes, saying, I'm so sorry, please let me go. And can you guess what I did? A story I did told. Now, Jimmy boy, naughty boy, why should I let you go? Where were you being kind when you grabbed and you stole? Oh, and eating Santa's cookies and drinking his ice cold milk. You should be ashamed, you naughty, naughty boy. Why should I treat you fair when you weren't fair in there? Oh, Jimmy cried, boo-hoo-hoo. Oh, boy, Jimmy cried, boo-hoo-hoo. And all I did was look him in the eyes. Come on, old Jimmy boy, toughen up. What did you, that's all that's there. You were just plain cheeky to those parents and their kids. That's not even adding up all the other many things you did. Now, I give you one chance, just one chance, you hear. Go be good and keep Christmas cheer. Keep it in your heart, and maybe, just maybe, old Krampus will depart. If not, the laugh that exits me just fills Jimmy with dread, and something warm and yellow comes streaming. A scream, not a scream, exits his maw, and he's off in a flash, just running and running. That's all. So now I check the list, and I check off old Jimmy, and then I check it twice for the next name is thrilling. Oh, in a twist, is it you? Or is that just silly? I guess you're lucky because this time it's Billy. Yeah, that sounds good. And that's the story.
Hey, Ralph, thank you so much.
Ho ho ho!
Perfect.
Oh,
Great dark little Christmas tales. You've got that laugh down perfectly.
I'll be hearing that all night on Christmas Eve. Yeah, thanks, dude. Yeah.
You know what's gonna happen? You're gonna be expecting that ho ho ho. You're gonna get that he he he.
Ah,
That's it. And you'll know things
Right.
have gone horribly, horribly wrong
right.
somewhere.
But just to follow up on that thought, one thing you had said earlier on with us is that you'd been told that you have a voice for broadcasting, and like, yeah, they're right. They're right.
Mhm.
You got that nice, rich voice. Yeah.
Oh
It
yeah.
was so funny because all my life it was like, oh, you got the voice for broadcasting, and I didn't pay attention to it because I had my own thoughts. I was supposed to be an engineer, but then I realized I hate math.
Okay. That's fair.
That could be a bit of a conflict.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's too funny.
So tell me or tell us about these ghost stories, these Christmas tales. So this is something you've been doing on, is it on Bit and Apple TV or on Written
Yeah,
Writ?
we've been doing it on Bit and Apple TV. There's two
Yeah.
shows. There's Apple Bites, which is on Mondays, and
Okay.
the Written Writ was in my show, which is on Wednesdays. And a couple of years back, we were having this big discussion. I think it was during one of the shows, and we got into it where people forget that Christmas was about ghost stories before. They would tell ghost stories. That's what that's what a Christmas Carol is a ghost story.
Yeah.
And people always like look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no. Christmas has ghost stories. Some of the best ghost stories are during Christmas. So I was like, you know what? We need to remind people, about all this fun stuff that's out there. So I was like, oh, you know what? We'll hit some people up and get them to come on and see if they can create their own little ghost stories. And we'll read a couple of them during one of our shows.
Well,
Right
fun.
before Christmas.
Yeah.
Cool.
What could possibly go wrong?
No, it's a great tradition, and I think it's more popular in the UK than it is in the
Yeah.
US. Although it's kind of gaining some traction here now, and I'm a big fan when I can catch them of the BBC's A Ghost Story for Christmas specials that they put out every year, and they've adapted some great M.R. James and Charles Dickens,
Yeah.
not the Carol, but the
Yeah.
Single Man ghost stories. But it's such a fun time of year to use as a setting for a spooky story,
Oh,
because there's so many things that just are unique to this time of year that there's just not there.
And usually those ghost stories have some purpose, some meaning, some beautiful, warm thought that's attached to them. Because some of these ghost stories are usually about family and family coming to visit someone when they've been gone and they learn a lesson, or somebody they think is dead isn't really dead. He's been alive the whole time. He's been in the morgue. Or there's so many Christmas stories, and then at the end of it, you find out, oh my God, he's still alive.
Cool. Well, I heard Grady Hendrix read at KGB Bar, the readings in New York City, and he read a Krampus-based story one year, and it was like the most demented thing I've heard in a long time. So, it's not always good family things, but yeah. I like when there's like something that sort of makes your heart glad around the.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like everybody can do what they want. They can write what they want. But I find that the ones that actually have purpose or there's something there, I like those things better because, especially in this world where, I feel like people just tend to like forget everything. Sometimes they need to be reminded of things.
Is that something that inspires you as a writer in general?
I think it just becomes my writing because I know that most of the stuff that I write usually has some meaning to it, but I don't set out to write it like that. I know that it seems to be the craze recently where people have a message and then the story is the message and then they write the message is the story. And I'm like, no, I got a story and there's a message in the story. And sometimes I find out what the message is as I'm writing the story.
Yes. That's fascinating. Oh, I didn't know I was writing about that. Look at that.
Exactly.
Mama. Yeah.
You got to trust
those
your
are exciting
subconscious.
because those are those moments where you enjoy your own writing. You're like, oh, whoa, I wasn't expecting that.
That's right. Something comes together and you're like, ooh, I'm good.
Exactly. Those are the moments I love when, like, because there's times when you write your stuff and you're like, whatever. And then there's times where you write your stuff, you're like, oh my God.
And that's why, you have to write a lot.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Ray Bradbury said, write a story a week,
Yep.
for a year, and you will write at least one good story, So
It's true.
And that's one of the reasons why I started the written writ, was because, I figured out as I was taking this journey to become a better writer that, it's a journey to become a better writer, because you read the books, you read all the books about how to write. And I feel like there's a gap left at the end of you reading all the books. And that gap is that they don't really, they kind of explain it, but they don't really tell you that you have to take now this journey and become the writer you're supposed to be. But, and they kind of explain it, but they kind of don't. So you don't really know. So you finish at the end of all that and you go, what do I do next? And the whole thing is that you're supposed to write. You're supposed to take the journey. You're supposed to do all this stuff to become the writer you're supposed to be. And then most people get like stuck because they won't write. And I'm like, dude, if you don't write, you can't get better.
Right. It's one of those, irrevocable rules of writing is if you don't write, you can't be a writer.
Yeah. And then, it's the funny with the definition on writing, because a lot of people then they get stuck in that definition too. And then they'll be like, oh, Ralph, but I just do this. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're a writer. There's other levels of writing,
Sure.
So you reach those levels as you go up, but as soon as you're a writer, don't get into your own head, because then you won't become anything else.
Don't
you can
talk
always
yourself
level
out
it
of
up.
it.
Yeah. Now when you have all sorts of guests, creative guests on your show, and you talk about, like you're saying, writing in so many different modes and mediums. What is it that makes you interested in talking to people that are doing different things, or creative people in general?
I find that I'm very curious. Any conversation I'm in, as I'm talking to you, there's like 10,000 questions happening in the back of my head, and I need those questions answered. And I also love the creative process. I love writing, and I love everything that comes with it. I love making movies. I love all that creative stuff is just amazing to me. And I feel like a lot of it tends to stay hidden behind the scenes, or people try to put these walls up instead of trying to do what they want to do, what they love. Because I did it I studied broadcasting. Then for 10 years I didn't do anything with it. I had all this stuff. It's like, oh, look, I'm making money. What does it matter? Then a friend told me, it was like, dude, you got your broadcasting degree. You can do something with it. And I was like, well, that was 10 years ago. And I was like, yeah, but you're still creative. You're still writing. You haven't stopped doing any of that. So just take the next step. And that she got me into doing extra work on film. She got me to doing all these different things, and that's how I ended up in the comedy troupe. That's how I ended up doing what I was doing for another company before Bitten Apple TV, and everything's come from there. And I feel like that journey, that process is the one that everyone has, but I feel like a lot of people tend to block themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to get out of your own way sometimes.
Oh, we are our worst enemy.
So, Bitten Apple TV, you said you've got two shows, Apple Bites and The Written Writ.
Right.
So, and you do different things on each show.
They started off differently, because on Apple Bites, it used to be me and Leslie, but Leslie's gotten busy and she can't be on the show. And what ends up happening is, when you have a different voice, you can have a different show. I try to keep them separate and different. I try to do more of the writing stuff on the Written Writ, but I find that it's turned into more of a, can you be on the 7:30 show, or can you be on the 10:30 show? And then we get into things, but I do feel like when it's the Written Writ, it goes in a different direction.
Yeah.
It's more about the process. It's more about the writing, the creativity, even though some of that stuff happens on Apple Bites.
Right. And you spend a lot of time going out covering local conventions and events and things like that, and meeting creators there too.
Yeah, because 10 years ago, because we're celebrating our 10th anniversary, we just hit 10 years in October.
Wow.
Yeah, we were like sitting there going, because we would go to the conventions. We were doing this for somebody else, and when we were doing it for somebody else, they were more interested in the stars and the media and all the people that don't really need the press. And we were sitting there going, dude, these guys are doing fantastic stuff. This writer over here has a fantastic book. That guy over there has a great comic book. Did you see what that guy made over there? And I was sitting there going, these guys need press. You know, these guys need to have somebody come to them and talk to them about their stuff so they can get the word out there. And that's always seems to be what gets us motivated and moving forward, is that I want to get the word out there for the creators, the indies, the guys doing this stuff. Because, you know, when I go to the conventions, the first thing I look at is passion. If I see that passion, I'm going to go talk to you.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what's exciting, is somebody who's really, you know, passionate and enthusiastic about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, talking to these folks on your show, does it influence what you yourself do and write and the way you approach things?
I think it keeps me motivated and going forward. Because like with the writing show, and especially like this crappy stuff, it's a work in progress. So it's not really done. It's not really posted. It's not really published. It's still alive. In other words, you know what I mean? As writers, we keep things alive for a while, and then we decide, okay, you're done, and we put it somewhere. So a lot of my stuff stays alive, and it grows and evolves and becomes other things. This is for both of those pieces. I think they are on the third or fourth or fifth version of what they were from the beginning.
Wow.
You know, and as they progress, because I wasn't going to make a sequel to this, and then it was like, hey, there's the sequel. I can see the sequel. And then the same thing. There's another part now that I'm working on for the December 22nd show. And it's just a continuation of the whole thing. And I feel like that helps my writer's process, because now I'm actually writing with the people, which is how I started off the Written Writ. Because when I started off as the recorded show on teaching people how to write or learning how to write, it was a journey between them and I on becoming better writers.
Right.
So come on, let's become better writers together.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And you learn so much from just sharing ideas with other writers and looking at how, you know, different writers approach different things. So
and we all know this. And what happens is that sometimes writers don't want to go in those rooms with other writers because they're going to steal my stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a thought that we all have, but you know what happens is sometimes we get away from it, because the most beautiful thing is sitting in a room with writers and going back and forth, because it actually improves your writing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I always find that they're going to steal my stuff, thought process a little baffling to me, because, you know, at the end of the day, there's still going to be 8 bazillion books about vampires published every year.
And I always say the same thing. They may steal your stuff, but it's not your story.
Right.
They're going to write it the way they're going to write it.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, thank you so much for the readings and for doing some chatting with us. I think we're going to have Jennifer and Oliver come back on and talk about what everyone has coming up next.
Yeah.
Oliver, Jennifer, welcome back. Thank you so much for reading tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Change my background for you.
I was going to say, it's a different background.
He teleported while he was off screen. There we go.
The tentacles reached out, grabbed him. We know what happened.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So,
Reconstituted me into the meat suit.
Oh my.
Other than managing your meat suit, what have you got coming up? What can we safely look at? We don't want to, you know, have our eyeballs
right
by looking at
got it. So yeah, I'm doing some readings. I know that next year there's a bunch of stuff coming out. Some of it, at least one thing I can't talk about, but there are 2 things. Basically, the role-playing game manuals coming out next year that I have spent. One I at least spent the last couple of years editing and helping people put together. So,
Cool.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then I can finally talk about that because that's a licensed product thing. So,
Right.
but
Right.
there are other things coming out next year.
Exciting.
Yeah, and I'm sure other things will be happening. But yes.
I feel like with your Cthulhu sex background, we're probably looking at the Call Girl of Cthulhu role playing game or something.
Call Girl of Cthulhu.
That's an excellent
There you
idea,
go.
Jim. Yeah, somebody's got to take that one and run with it. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
awesome. Jennifer, how about you? What's next?
So this month I have 2 stories coming out. I think one just came out in Penumbric, a speculative fiction magazine called I've Seen the Movie, which is kind of a dystopian story. And then I'll have a short flash piece about a conjoined pair of twins that plays like a weird game in a futuristic kind of setting.
Ooh.
Slugger magazine. And at some point next year, I will have another story in Interzone, a historical piece set in the 1600s in what was the Spice Islands, what's now part of Indonesia, and another historical piece coming out in Feast or Famine anthology from Purple Toga about set in the Gilded Age in the Thousand Island region of New York. Yeah, I can talk. So
Yeah.
so a couple of more historical stuff coming out, and it's kind of cool. So,
Exciting.
yeah.
And Ralph, before we hear from you what's next, I did want to ask you about how you and your colleagues settled on the title "We Suck at Comics" for your
I gotta
comic.
say, I came in on the second end of that because they did the first issue of We Suck at Comics before me.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's just a fabulous title. I completely agree with you. I'm gonna have to ask them because I don't remember if I've asked them because I've had them on the show, and I don't think I've asked them that question. I'm happy you asked that because I don't think I was thinking. I just love the idea of the title. We suck at comics because we do.
Not entirely, though. You got a kick-in cover, and the book is out, right?
And well, the whole concept is that we suck at comics because everybody doesn't see what we're doing.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's now I
think
get it.
that's where it comes from, probably.
Right. Well, what have you got coming up in the future that does not suck?
Well, this weekend, definitely we will be at the Cradle of Aviation for, wow. Yeah, see, it was what Carol's saying. All of a sudden, all the words and names leave your head. Yeah, we'll be at the Cradle of Aviation for. Damn, I can't remember.
They had the convention there. Yeah, that's cool.
The convention there.
Yeah.
It's a Christmas type convention. It's games. It's all beautiful stuff.
Cool.
We're going to be there hanging out, doing interviews, doing all the good stuff. So if you go to the Cradle of the Aviation this weekend, come say hi, come check us out. And if you want to see what I write or how I write, check out my Vocal, because on Vocal, I've been writing some stuff. I've also been sharing my knowledge on writing on Vocal itself. Yeah. And of course, December 22nd on Apple Bites, Ghost Stories, Christmas Ghost Stories.
Yeah.
If you want to see the third part of this, be there.
Okay. Ho, ho, ho.
So it's officially a trilogy.
One more thing, Jim, I forgot to mention was I do have a poem coming out in this month's edition of the Scene, which is an open mic magazine.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Open mic and magazine.
Oh, congratulations.
Festival of Games.
Yes.
There we
See?
go.
The Festival of Games in the Cradle of Aviation. I kept thinking the Fellowship of Games.
Who knows? Brains are weird,
Get a ring.
Trying
Go.
to find the link to your Vocal because I think one of those stories you read is on there, right?
I think no, not one of the Krampus stories. But
No,
you
okay.
did read one of my ghost stories. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to throw that link in the chat. So if you want another ghost story from Ralph, you can check it out there.
Yeah.
I like ghost stories.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool.
All right.
Jim, how about you? What do you have coming up?
Apparently learning to better keep track of the time since I'm still stuck somewhere in March, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm back there with you. I don't know. Maybe it's the
Your
show
flu.
that did it. It just grabbed us and kept us there. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Well, I'll be appearing in February at my Bloody Valentine side quest horror book sale and event that you spoke about earlier.
Yep.
Right. I'll be
As
checking
will I.
that out,
Yeah.
hanging out there. Yep. I'll see you and quite a few other local horror authors, and then I'll be at Lich in the end of February, so which I think you'll be there too. And
As will I. So we're just saving time here. Yeah.
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 That's
Yeah.
it. Other than that, I got a bunch of stuff I'm hoping I'll be able to announce in the first half of next year.
Cool. And I just myself I don't have anything specific coming out immediately, but I just finished edits on a big book which has been torturing me for a good long while. That's very cool. And we can also say, mark your calendar for our next Galactic Terrors event, which is coming up on the second Thursday in January 8th at 8 o'clock as usual. And it's a special year-end wrap-up session about looking back at the year in horror for 2025. And
Yes.
we've got, a bunch of great folks in there.
Quite a crew to come on and talk horror for the past year. And it's been an interesting year in horror, so I'm expecting some curveballs and some heated debates.
Yes. I think it will at least have some discussion about Frankenstein, because Frankenstein is so big these days, you know.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the movie?
Yeah.
Actually, not yet. But
Okay.
I'm hearing a lot of good things about it.
I think you should check it out. Definitely worth a viewing. I
Cool.
won't say anything else. I don't like to.
I like Guillermo del Toro, so
Okay. That's good enough for me. Yeah. Cool. Well, this has been so much fun. We had such very different pieces, but they were all quite interesting and engaging. And it was really neat to hear you guys read them in your own voice, because now whenever I read your work going forward, I will hear it with your voice in my head, which is a little scary.
Especially when you get to that piece in Ralph's story where there's a laugh.
he.
There we go. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. And thanks to our audience for tuning in. And everyone, best wishes for the rest of 2025. And we'll see you in the next year.
See you next year. It's my favorite joke of the year.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.